So we did this Rose Anvil builds video probably about a couple months ago, and usually I try to do an unboxing when that video releases because that channel doesn't have as many subscribers, and I really like going through why we decided to do certain things instead of just having those videos post and everyone kind of guessing why and how and kind of the strategy behind it and the concept behind it. So that's why I like to do these unboxing, but we've been so stinking busy with Mocktober and everything going on with the Lasso Link neck strap release and everything that goes on in Q4 for us, because it's the craziest time of year. It's nuts. Everyone's doing their boot buying and all their back to school buying and Christmas and all the holidays are coming up, and so it just turns into a crazy time of year for us. So better late than never. So let's do a quick unboxing. And first, well, what is this boot? Well, it is started off as the Redwing 877, their 8-inch classic mock. And I love that boot. I've always wanted a pair to just wear as is. And so this year I was like, well, I'm gonna buy a pair and wear them. But then Build's channel came around and I was like, you know what? I remember seeing this pair of boots on, I wish I could remember what the Instagram was. It was either like rugged workwear. I think it was something rugged. And they had a very similar build to this. And I really liked how the orange leather contrasted and complemented the green outsole. And so I wanted to recreate that and put a little bit of our own spin on it. So now let's unbox them, show you what they look like. Usually these unboxings would be like,
you'd be like, oh my gosh, they look so
cool, but I've seen these a bunch. So I'm not gonna try to fake it. But they are pretty freaking sick looking. I think they turned out so good. Even I was watching the video on these from the Builds channel before recording this, and I was like, oh, these actually do look super sick, because it's one thing to see boots not on your foot or other people's feet, but once I think Sam was modeling these and wearing them around, I really like the way they look. But you can see they look completely different from, somewhat different than the original 877s, just because we did the whole sole differently. And it's kind of crazy how much just swapping the sole components can take this more work looking boot that has the classic wedge sole on it to make it a little bit more refined, a little bit more dressy by doing this half sole and doing it especially in green. So what do we do to this thing through and through? Well, I guess the best way to start is just start from the bottom and work our way up. Well, like I said, we removed that wedge sole that's basically Redwing's version of the Vibram Christie, which is a blown rubber wedge, which is really comfortable. It grips pretty decently, but it just is big and chunky. It doesn't have that more classy, refined look. I think I just want to do a full sole rather than a half sole, but Taylor, who did the vast majority of the work on this, was like, let's do a half sole.
I was like, sure, why not?
And so one cool thing he did was take this, usually which would be a full sole, cut it and skived it down or like sanded it down on the sander, put some brass nails into it, and now you have like a really nice looking half sole. I guess I should be showing it on this camera. Half sole. And I love these Dr. Soles super grips. I think they just look really cool. They have like these little features on the side that probably don't do anything, or they're probably the exact same density, but they look like they do stuff, and that's half the fun of design is if it looks cool. I know this is the first time I've really ever worn one of these outsoles. They seem like they're pretty decent rubber. You know, they're not like really hard and like crusty. They feel like a high quality rubber, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I assume that's going to be pretty fun to wear. You know, it's also one of these things where it's like, will I ever wear out a pair of boots for the rest of my life? You know, it's like the one thing that I kind of hate about what we do is like, I never get a fully broken in pair of boots half the time, just because every time we get something done, there's a new project coming out or new collaboration or new video. And so these ones I'm going to try to actually wear and get some good miles in them, because I really wanted to try out the sizing in this, because I did a 10, I believe, compared to what I would usually do was like a 9.5. Because this last is so stinking narrow, I'm tired of having my toes squished, especially breaking in boots. So I've started to go wider and a little bit longer. And I think the 10 is going to work. I think I'd rather have the extra room in the toe than I would have it be shorter and less width. Ideally, I would have gone with like a 9.5 double E. That way I reduce the toe length and increase the width. But I don't think they make that in this boot. So the 10 ended up working really well for me for sizing. So true to Brannock as far as I'm concerned, but a lot of people go half size down from Brannock. Next thing we did was obviously add a leather midsole. You know, before it was just a rubber slip sole. It makes sense because when you have those kind of boots, they're not sewn all the way through, and so you want to be able to pull the old outsole off and just glue a new one on. And rubber glues better to rubber than it does rubber to leather. And you know, they're $340 boots, and they have a full grain leather insole. And so a lot of times at this price range, there's like almost only room for one big chunk of leather in a boot. And usually at this price point for the visual look, they put it in the midsole, and I guess for durability too. But it seems like a lot of people forego the leather insole and substitute it with the leather midsole. But that's what I like about Redwing is and some of their boots, they don't even have a midsole. They just focus all that price, I guess, on the insole. So why do we add it? I guess because it looks cool, and we needed the structure, we needed the strength, because with a rubber slip sole we wouldn't have enough support. Because especially where these boots originally didn't come with a shank, Taylor made a hardened leather shank where he took a piece of, I think it was horse butt strip or like Herman oak or something, like really hard veg tan, hammered it to make it even harder, and made the shank out of that, which filled up the cavity caused by the 360 Goodyear welt that was before filled with cork. So now you get a little bit of that fiddle waist, a little bit more support over that heel so that you don't boat out this shoe as there's no support through there. And then another thing that he did was add a leather filling on the inside. This is a personal preference thing. There's two, I would say actually far and away, the most common filling for a Goodyear welt is cork. And it's been the classic way of doing it for the last hundreds of years, however long they've been doing Goodyear welted boots. The issue I have with it is cork will bottom out in the middle of the boot, and then around the outside where that gemming is, it stays really tall. And so it just kind of don't like the feel of it. It dishes out, and it has like a high pressure point on my big toe and my pinky toe, and it makes them pretty uncomfortable. And so for me personally, I like having a leather filling because it compresses a lot less at a more equal rate and amount compared to the sides of that gemming. But a lot of people like cork because it's more shock resistant when you're hitting the ground with your foot. It absorbs some of the shock, it breaks in faster. I don't think one's necessarily significantly better than the other. I think it just comes down to personal preference and taste and what you're doing in them. So that's why I did it, because I like it more. Oh, one thing I really was excited about was we changed out the eyelets for speed hooks going up the shaft of the boot, because initially these were all eyelets, and I think they were just silver, like nickel plated eyelets, but I wanted to do brass. I thought it would match the color scheme a little bit more, you know, brass being a little bit closer in color to the orange. And I just, you know, I like eyelets, but when it comes to an 8-inch boot, I hate eyelets because you have to sit there, untie your boots every single day, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's annoying after being used to like speed hooks where you can just quickly unlace them. And so we did the solid brass speed hooks and kept some of them of the eyelets down below, just a typical like setup. And I like the look of brass more, and it makes these a lot easier to wear. Then we also added in our boot pocket kit. You can see here on this side they put a little card pocket for me, because I am surprised at how much I actually do use this. And most of the time, I'm not like planning on using the pocket kit, but it comes in handy more often than you might think. Whether it's going to a concert and you need to sneak your ID in, or if you're just going to a bar and you don't want to carry a wallet and stuff, it's surprisingly handy. And then I just like the look of this one, where it's the Billy Boot style pocket kit that comes in our pocket kit, clicked out of the same Aura Legacy leather. And we're working on getting a wider variety of leathers, and we're going to try to start offering some really specific leathers that you guys can match a lot closer, because we have 5 leathers right now. And you can see we still match them pretty close, because inside of here, this kiltie is the Rose Anvil no-show kiltie. I believe it's a light brown, and it matches really close to this Aura Legacy, like very close. But for this, we just took one of the old Redwings we've cut apart and stole that leather because I wanted it to match perfectly. And I think it looks so cool. I love the look of this little patch. So you get a little bit of that Billy Boot look with a more refined look of a half sole. So that's pretty much everything that we did to this boot. And this is a fun one because you could take this to any cobbler, whether you have a brand new pair of these or a used pair, and they'll be able to do this resole pretty easily for you, because we didn't even get into the structure of the boot. The insole stayed intact. He did resew it back on with a new welt, but most cobblers are just gonna be like, hey, let's just undo those stitches, throw on a midsole, new outsole, and sew it back up. It doesn't have to be resewn, I don't think. I think you could get away without doing that. And so you can end up taking this to a cobbler, and for a fairly affordable price, you can get this done to your boot. And that's kind of the fun of these projects is we're trying to make them attainable enough that you can either try starting to do this kind of stuff at home, or you can take it to a local cobbler, support your local cobbler by having them transform it for you. But eventually we want to get to a point where people are just doing this on their own. We want to make some educational videos on how to do like resewing by hand, how to like do everything with basic tools rather than all the necessary tools that big businesses use, or even our little cobbling setup we have. because it's just fun to do. It's fun to customize your stuff, and whether it's boots or whatever. And I love leatherworking. It's a passion of mine and Taylor's, so it's fun to share. So now let's see if they even fit. They do fit because I've tried them on. We didn't even do the insole, but we got to do it for the video. We can't do a whatever video without a try on. So while I try this on, we'll put the B-roll of me wearing it over top because I already know they fit because we didn't change anything. The thing that's crazy about these Red Wings is they use the same Oral Legacy leather as the tongue, and it is so hard to break in. It's probably the hardest tongue I've ever had to break in a boot on these $340 Red Wings. Oh yeah, fit like a glove. So I think the 10 was the right fit. I think moving forward in this particular last for Red Wing, I'm gonna go 10 just because of that extra width. So let me know what you guys think and go check out this video on Rose Anvil builds. I'll put the links in the description, and thank you guys for supporting this channel, the Rose Anvil main channel and the builds channel. If you can, subscribe to this and the builds, because the more subscribers, the more time and energy we can spend on making these builds, showing you how we do these things, and hopefully starting to show you guys how you can do them at home. So thank you guys for everything that you do supporting us, and to Brody and Taylor for taking on this project and making me a sick pair of Red Wings. So thank you guys. See ya.